Here.
Here? Here.
Here. Here. Next, we'll move into a moment of silent prayer or private reflection. Amen. And if everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have a possible motion for an executive session.
I don't see a need for one.
Okay, moving on to 2.1, we have no new reports from the Lake Havasu City Education Association, so we're going to move on to 3.1 and our call to the public. We have Mr. Lynch, if you'd like to come up to the mic.
Dr. Stone, board members, directors, and staff. We are gathered here today to be a part of the official legal business for the Lake Havasu Unified School District. Since I do not know any of you personally, we will start with a clean slate and understanding for the challenges we are facing today at this meeting. My spoken words, while present here, might upset some people. Free speech is a democracy is a valuable tool that can help you bring change in our society. At the July school board meeting last month, you had the honor and privilege of listening to Christine Simons, who was a retired school teacher. With many years' experience teaching. Christine mentioned how the Kingman School Board voted to eliminate some age-inappropriate books from the school in the library. She also was disappointed in the fact that there are only 2 PTAs at the Lake Havasu Unified School District, and she mentioned parents are not able to go and see what's actually going to be taught in their classrooms, as she learned from her plumber. Christine passed away on July 12th, and to the best of my knowledge, the school board has taken no action to encourage the establishment of the PTAs for every school in Lake Havasu Unified School District. As a first step to improving our school system, I am requesting the PTA become a school board mandate priority for grades K through 6, and I'm placing on your agenda, and to be placed on your agenda, for discussion and a voting approval by the school board. That would be the first step. Christine mentioned that there was only one school that had the actual PTA, but I've done my research on that, and I know for sure that the actual statistics are this: Havasu Pi, Nautilus, and Jamaica have no PTAs. They have what they call PTSO, Parent Teacher Student Organization. When you get the students involved in it, it's not the same. You need to have parents and teachers communicating together so that something can be done that's productive. Oro Grande has a PTA association. Starline has a PTA association. Smoke Tree is doubtful, very questionable. I looked on their website, and they have a long explanation with this PTSO, Parent Teacher Association, and there's also an address to contact them. I sent them an email requesting information. I received back nothing. So I don't consider them to have the PTA. They do have goals. They have everything written out, but I'm doubtful whether or not they're actually conducting anything with the parents. Thunderbolt has nothing like anything that resembles the PTA. There's a line, one line item, Parent Teacher Student Association, one line item where they can be reached by internet mail, email. Not good, not good. Too much communication today is being done by email, and we're missing the personal contact between the students, not the students, the parents, and the teachers. You need that personal contact if you want to get good results for the community. And this is supposed to be a community operation. There's another one on here that's part of your operation. It's called Parent Venue, and that has to do with the Lake Havasu High School. And I'm not sure at all what that is, because one line it says, I am a parent, and the other line says, I am a student. I'm assuming that you're supposed to write your parent conversion down and your student version down, but I'm not sure what is actually meant by that. That's all I have there. You have one golden, actual, really a beautiful thing in your system, and that is Oro Grande school system. The school in Oro Grande that I went out there, interviewed the principal. Christine was supposed to go with me, but she wasn't able to go. I went out there and interviewed the principal. He was really nice, gave me almost an hour of his time to explain what the process is, what they do out there. And in my opinion, that is a real school. They have harmony, they have peaceful. He mentioned too that they haven't had a fight in the school for a couple years, 2-3 years now. There's been no fighting. And the reason for that is they communicate with each other, they have ideals, they have virtues, and they follow them. They say the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning, and they say the Pledge of Fidelity right after that. And they work together with that for the rest of the day. And that's what I would like to see as step 2. Step 2, I would suggest that every school board member go tour Oro Grande School and see what can be done to improve Lake Havasu City education by following the Hillsdale method as practiced at Oro Grande School. As it stands today, Lake Havasu Unified School District is not unified in its teaching system. There's too much scattered. I just don't know if you have principals doing this, principals doing that. Please. Time's up. I didn't know what the time was. Okay. All right.
So I'm happy to meet with you. I can meet with you. I will call and set up a time so you can get a bigger view of what the whole district is doing and how they are meeting some of those expectations that you talked about. Websites maybe need to be updated, maybe need to have some things put there, but I can certainly share what each principal is doing with their parents, with their teachers and students, and also speak to the curriculum piece.
See, what I see as the problem is there's no unity there. They're not all following the same system. And that's where I think that if they all followed Oro Grande's system, it would be a beautiful place. And that's a good system out there.
I'm not going to disagree, but it's also a little confusing if we're just looking at the website. So I'm happy to meet with you and share all of that information with you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm sorry I wasn't more fluent, but a little emotion involved there.
No
Thank you.
worries at all.
Please meet with Superintendent Stone, because we changed Oro Grande a few years ago on purpose.
A few days ago, what?
A few years ago, we changed Oro Grande to a classical academy.
And there's a difference between that and a school?
Yes. Between that and a regular school, yes.
Then all the schools should be at academies. That's what I believe. It's got to be the same. It's got to be good and it's got to be the same. That's my opinion.
Okay, talk to Dr. Stone about it.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Lynch. Moving on to 4.1, do we have a vote for a consent agenda?
I move that we pass it without objection.
I will second.
Yes.
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 Moving on to 5.1, discussion items, student achievement, first grade standards-based report.
Mr. President and Governing Board, the first grade teachers will be moving to a standards-based report card which highlights student mastery of both content, academic skills, and life skills, communication and social for the 23-24 school year. The following items make up the rationale for this move. Kindergarten teachers currently use a standards-based report card to communicate student achievement with families. They've been using a standards-based report card since 2008-2009. Letter grades as final grades are not specific to the foundational reading, writing, and math skills each student has mastered or struggled with. Composite scores do not always represent the specific skills that students are achieving. Parents do not always understand all of the pieces that go into one letter grade. Rather, they may just be concerned about honor roll and may not support student mastery of skill, rather just be focused on the letter grade. Because kindergarten is not required in Arizona, not all students entering first grade are entering first grade with the same skills and baseline. Standard-based report cards allow for more individualized feedback and goal setting. Standards-based grading gives specific feedback, and it will be easier to communicate to parents about student progress. This will provide a rubric helping to track performance with direct feedback on specific standards students should have mastered per quarter. Clear, consistent feedback will create accurate feedback, allowing teachers to shift their instruction to relative, meaningful, and challenging applications. Parents and students will receive clear and consistent feedback based on mastery of standards to provide a detailed breakdown and proficiency level for each academic area. Standards-based report cards will paint a clear, meaningful picture reflective of the skills learned. First grade teachers have worked on this transition for the past year during articulation time and are prepared to implement their work this school year. This will better support students as they learn the foundational skills needed for student achievement.
Do we have a motion or any discussion?
It was just a discussion item.
Oh, no. Oh, that's just discussion. I'm sorry. Moving on to...
Wait, I would like to have some
Any discussion? Sorry.
One thing I would like to do is make sure we get a report on the change and any positives, negatives next year at about this time.
Okay.
I would agree, and I do think, I have an overall positive impression of this move. I think that it will give parents more meaningful feedback rather than just letter grades, which are a snapshot and tend to be, at the first grade level, tend to be more about participation and attitude and that sort of thing, rather than giving the parents meaningful information about what their kids know how to do versus what they still need help with. And especially at that early age when parent intervention is less intimidating. It's easier to teach kids, how to practice sight words or use math flashcards at those earlier ages. So I do think that I think it's a good idea, and I would be curious to see, like Dr. Aran said, what our metrics are for next year.
Moving on to 6.1, student achievement, Lake Havasu High School supplementary novels, The Princess Bride, Billy Budd, and The Metamorphosis.
Mr. President and Governing Board, last year Lake Havasu High School implemented HMH into literature as their primary English language arts curriculum for grades 9 through 12. Although the year was successful, there are slight adjustments that are being requested to improve the curriculum for students. Based on the year of instruction, teachers are requesting changes to a number of novels and units that are being used in the curriculum. All requested changes are to novels already suggested as part of the HMH into literature program. So I just want to preface this by saying when we brought this up for adoption a year and a half ago, we talked about the importance of transparency and sharing with families what would be happening in any changes. And so to honor that transparency is why we're bringing specific pieces of literature that are longer reads back to the board, even though these are already within the whole HMH into literature program. So 12th grade British literature is requesting to replace their third quarter unit, which is Unit 4, Emotion and Experimentation, the Flowering of Romanticism, with the celebration of human achievement, the English Renaissance. Unit 4 was centered around reading Frankenstein. The graphic novel version of Frankenstein is taught in the 8th grade, and although the text differs, both novels hinge on the same themes. The long read for Unit 2 is The Princess Bride by William Goldman. 11th grade American literature is requesting to add Billy Budd by Herman Melville to Unit 3, The Individual and Society, Literature of the American Renaissance. The junior team found that the students read multiple short stories and would benefit from a long read. The book allows students to explore things like morality, the nature of good and evil, and their roles of citizens in a far more nuanced and personal way than any of the works currently being taught. 10th grade honors is requesting to add the novella The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. This edition will increase the level of rigor for the class. The text offers students the opportunity to interact with the idea of writing that is Kafkaesque, which allows students to make connections to real-world settings. The Metamorphosis is an HMH suggested long grade for Unit 5 Forces of Change, and it directly aligns with the unit's essential question, how do changes large and small affect us? The total cost for these novels will be less than $6,000. Lake Havasu High School will use site-based funds for these purchases. This has been approved by the principal, Scott Becker, based on recommendations from the English department. If these supplemental texts are approved, the Student Achievement Department will update the approved novel list and pacing guide for Lake Havasu High School.
As a reader, I move that we approve 6.1 as presented.
I will second. I do appreciate the transparency on this. I think it's very important to know that this did go through committee and, and was very well rigorously debated as a program, and this is part of the program. And I think everything you said sounds like what we're doing is seeing what we're doing and then modifying it to help our students. So.
I have some reservations with the novella and the Billy Budd book. I didn't read The Princess Bride, but I've seen the movie. I would like to talk first about the Metamorphosis book. There are some delightful themes in there. It's very creative, and it depends really on how the teacher utilizes or develops these themes, like what to do if you're unable to escape the situation you are in. Unfortunately, it's a rather dark storyline, existential nihilism, that life is meaningless, and when the bug dies, life goes on and nobody cares. I'd like to suggest that we create a policy of how we will teach books that are not in the curriculum, unless this one is, but I was looking at the unit where it had, it has circle with the main themes, and then the sub-themes were out around the sides. And I really liked that because it's a nice way of diagramming the literature with one central thought and then providing the teacher with an appropriate way to address to frame the book, actually. I think with all the negativity that students have to contend with today, that I would like to think that we offer pedagogies and curriculums of hope and not fear. And I think this would provide I think the Education Committee could get together for this book or any other that could be perceived in rather dismal ways and use some guiding questions and sub-themes that bring out the better features of the story. And so I would recommend, if we choose to use that particular literature, that we map that out. And then on the Billy Budd book, my concerns with this book are the numerous references to biblical persons, doctrines, and biblical stories, and whether we even have the teachers qualified to expound on the biblical imagery that's significant throughout the story. It's interlaced throughout the whole book. The author seems a bit antagonistic toward some forms of Christianity and the Christian God. It's not positive, and the language could be deemed offensive with reference to God. Some of the book focuses on death, the execution of a good man, again, business as usual. There's the customary salute, customary morning service, and the futility of a life lived. My hope is that we can find more hopeful narratives to give to our students, or at least circumvent unwanted critiques by offering our best shot at teaching for more wholesome and inspiring outcomes. If we want to approach biblical themes, if that's something we want to do, then I would recommend in literature there are many good books like C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape Letters or The Great Divorce that would bring a more positive spin to Christianity themes. So those are some of my concerns.
Can I speak to some of them? So with regards to Metamorphosis, the book is about a man who becomes disengaged. He's a traveling salesman. He becomes disengaged from his family and his repetitive life and becomes a bug and dies and nobody cares. It is written in the early 20th century with specific Kafka-esque is this idea of darkness. He was from the Czech Republic, but it really is an opportunity because it's science, kind of seen as science fiction, for students to engage with the importance of belongingness and what it means to live a full life, as opposed to just kind of accepting what is given to them. And so this story has been previously taught. It was approved in our previous curriculum and has been used. This was the first year it wasn't used. And from the teacher, what she said was she saw across the board a higher level of engagement with all of her students because it is science fiction with a magical feel. Students were curious and therefore willing to explore the themes, symbols, and allegories presented in the story. They typically have never read a story with Kafka's style, which poses an exciting challenge for them. So they're really able to deal with themes of profound transformation, family obligation, and dynamic, as well as alienation and isolation. And I think it is this magical story about someone turning into a bug. And so it is an opportunity for students to deal with ideas like isolation and alienation, which is really the point of literature, is to understand the lived human experience by experiencing it through other writers. And so, the purpose, although the story is dark, the purpose is really to better understand our feelings and the importance of meaning. As to Billy Budd, the story is about a British naval officer who is pressed into service. The character embodies youthful innocence, openness, and a natural charisma. He is adored by his crew. The plot reaches a turning point when a jealous crewmate falsely accuses Billy Budd of conspiracy to mutiny. The novel is often interpreted as a classic battle between good and evil. And so really that is, as we're experiencing good versus evil and looking at that human dynamic. Sensitive subject matter is there is violence. Billy hits another character in the face. He accidentally kills him. Billy asks God, talks to God in that scene. And so all of these pieces are historical in nature. We were very specific. They fit with the times of the period that we're studying, and so we feel that they do align with the curriculum, and the teachers always use that central question to make their moves, and so they wouldn't be teaching just about the darkness side of it.
I'd like to make a couple other points. I'm very excited about the Metamorphosis being taught, and the reason is because of the allegory for change, entering adulthood, becoming disabled, those types of things. The tragedy of a person's value tied to their ability to hold a job and money. That's something that's really, these kids are really facing. And I think that's something that not a lot of the books, and I think I'm going to speak to your point about, having the teachers prepared and knowing how to use it. But really, life lessons that can be learned from that is how to respect yourself, how to live in the present, how to love unconditionally. So I'm excited about this book being in the curriculum.
I think it really provides a safe space to talk about all those things and not necessarily talking about it, about yourself, or even something that is real. We're really looking at something that exists through science fiction or magic.
And also, I do feel like these selections are age appropriate. It'd be different if we were talking about younger students, but because we're talking about older teens, they are ready to grapple with some of the bigger issues that face humans.
And with Billy Budd, the thing that I was excited about with that is kind of the theme about the morality in the law. You know, I think that's something that, you know, is really in the news nowadays, that, you know, is the law black and white? No, it's not. You know, it's not really gray, but they kind of talk about those themes. And can you just have the law be black and white? You know, what's the intent of the law versus the, you know, actual action of it? And I think it creates a good forum for doing that for our students.
Yes.
I'm not quite finished. I do think there are some values to these books, but I do feel as though we should be proactive about approaching the books in a positive light. And I'm happy to hear that that's the intention, because it could go south very easily with these books.
Yeah, I agree with that point, 100%.
Are you ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Absolutely, yes.
Moving on to 6.2, business services, vouchers, student activity funds, and auxiliary funds.
Mr. President, members of the board, the vouchers and student auxiliary funds for June of 2023 are before you tonight for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
Yes.
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 Moving on to 7.1, our informational from our superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. And at our last board meeting, we talked about having a little update on the one-to-one initiative at the high school. So a letter did go out to all our parents and guardians about issuing the one-to-one laptop for everyone. There is a handbook that goes with that talks about the internet safety that we take very seriously. The device does have filtering that's intended to protect and prohibit students from accessing inappropriate materials. This security and filtering applies anywhere that they take that device. So no matter what Wi-Fi they connect to, that filtering stays in place if they're using our device. The other piece, and Mr. Mazin talked about this earlier, there is accidental damage protection. There's a factory warranty, and if there's accidental damage to the device, it can be turned in, and we can have that repaired by the company. The most important thing, checkout is happening next week. So for freshmen, that's Monday from 8 to 1. For sophomores, it's Tuesday. For Wednesday is juniors, and Thursday is seniors, all from 8 to 1, and the checkout is in C Hall. One of the things that Dr. Arund asked me about is, can students opt out from having the one-to-one? If they have their own computer and they prefer to use that, they can certainly bring that on campus. That filtering system will still work when they are connected to our Wi-Fi. However, when they take it home, obviously the filtering system does not exist. Another key piece of having this one-to-one initiative, while students, teachers are working on how to best implement technology as they work through the curriculum, but students do not have to have Wi-Fi when they go home to complete the work. It can be downloaded during the day. Anything that's required that they would be working on overnight, they can download it during the day and have that ready on their computer to work on in the evening. So we are excited to have our first group check out on Monday. Lots of parent feedback already coming in and signing the required paperwork to have that done. Any questions that anybody might have?
You answered mine.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Moving on to 7.2, do we have any informational from our governing board members?
Just, I would encourage parents to watch social media, watch emails. There's a lot going on, a lot coming up this week. It kind of speaks to something that Mr. Lynch said too. I think a lot of the communication does come out over social media. I think maybe we need to look at different ways to do that, but there is a lot from all the schools coming out on social media, so keep your eyes and ears open, parents.
Not just social media, but email and text messaging. Just like I didn't know what was going on with the parking lot over at the high school, that we tore it up and we replaced it. I didn't know that was going on or where we're at with it until I saw it on my email. So the email will help you get up to speed on stuff.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I think you skipped the call to public. I don't think there are any, but
Oh,
yeah.
is there any other call to the public?
No.
Any questions from the media? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Yes.
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 We are adjourned.